Hi, this is Precision Colors here. I decided to do this quick, very casual video to try to explain to potential users of my refill system why I did take so long to get this inkset in, and why in the end I ended up telling you or recommending that you do not refill the yellow, blue, and red ink from the Canon Pro 1000, 2000, 4000, 6000 at this point. I'll try to describe what this printer is all about and what we ran through or experienced during development, and this coincided with the features we started to see inside the Canon Pro 1000. First off, let me go over the ink system on the Canon Pro 1000. In the Canon Pro 1000, we have these ink tanks. 12 of them are installed at the front. These ink tanks lead into an internal ink tank that's inside the printer. And this is like a little mini reservoir that holds ink for the printer to use. From this reservoir, there are tubes that lead towards the print head, and then you start printing to paper. Now, in normal printers, many of you may have seen, if you own like the Pro 10 or Pro 100 before, the ink tank would sit directly on top of the print head. So when you change an ink tank, the ink goes directly into the print head onto the paper. On the Canon Pro 1, it does not have an internal ink tank, so it goes from the ink tank that you install, it goes to the print head through some tubes. And even though there is some ink contained in the tubes, you can quickly flush that ink out. On the Pro 1000, it's a totally different animal. Canon elected to put in some internal ink tanks in the printer. And these ink tanks are there for a few reasons. One of which is that it allows you hot swapping, so that in the middle of a print job, if you run out of ink, according to the ink tank here, it will continue to use ink from the internal ink tank. Thereby, there's no stopping of printing when you run out of ink. This is especially important on, say, 2000, 4000, 6000 in a production environment where you can keep printing large jobs and never have to stop to change inks at all. 1000, it's not so critical, but this aspect does present some issues for people who want to refill other than OEM ink. So let me go over this again. The ink tank you install, it goes into the internal ink tank, and it's about 25-30% of the ink that's in here that's always sitting inside the printer, and from there it goes to the print head. So once we realized what was going on in this printer, we determined that it was now extremely critical, if you want to retain the performance of the Pro 1000. I mean, the 1000 is, and the 2000, 4000, 6000, they're top-end printers, state-of-the-art print quality. So if you plan to refill on these, I'm sure you want to retain the state-of-the-art images you paid big bucks for that printer for. So when we started this off, we're just not going to give you some kind of refill inks as long as it prints. We're happy. I don't think you'd be happy. So we made a very, very high level of, high standard of what we're going to achieve this. And my objective in this was I was going to provide seamless printing for the 1000, 2000, 4000, 6000. By seamless, I mean you start with OEM ink, you empty it, you print right through, you put in refill ink, and you will not see any differences in the print between the first cartridge and when the second cartridge is finished. Let me explain to you why this is important, and don't get fooled, because if you put in an OEM cartridge here and this ink tank is full of ink, and then you put in a refill, or aftermarket ink. And this aftermarket ink is not quite exact or extremely close to the original. At first, when you put it in, the print head, as it's printing, will continue to use the internal ink tank, which still has OEM ink. You're going to think, great, this thing is printing excellent. But you're not having to use refill ink as yet, because it's still drawing from the internal tank. When this refill ink has emptied halfway, you've still got a mix of OEM and refill in here. And the colors might still be reasonably okay, but wait till this internal tank completely gets changed over to the refill, and then you're going to wonder what's happening. And you bought a top-end printer. You want vibrant colors, you want accuracy, you want neutrality, you want everything. You want shadow detail, you want everything. But once you realize it's not coming out here, unfortunately there's nothing you can do. Because the only way you can flush out this internal ink tank is you have to invoke a mode that tells the printer you're moving it, and you're going to use up about 1/3 to 1/2 of each ink tank, and you're going to use 3 maintenance cartridges to empty the system, and then you're going to have to refill it. That's going to cost you hundreds of dollars, and I'm sure you don't want to do that. So, with that said, we understood all these issues, and I'm not sure many people did either. So we set a standard where we wanted to have extremely close color matching in all the inks. So as we set out to do this, we started to discover there were some kinks in trying to meet that goal. One was the blue. Canon has extremely high gamut, dense blue pigment that the aftermarket just cannot meet. With that said, because we could not get close to it enough to match the OEM ink, we elected to not provide it. If I provided that, the print quality you paid for the 1000, 2000, etc., it would not be there. Second color, red. Again, we recommend that you do not use aftermarket red at this point. Extremely high gamut, extremely dense, very special red Canon uses. And the print engine uses that to its utmost, even when you're printing skin tones. So don't think it's just only the vibrant reds, but it also affects even down into the skin tone level. Next color, surprisingly, yellow. Again, another extremely high gamut yellow, very dense, very intense, that the aftermarket cannot provide. So again, to retain a print quality, we say stick with Canon OEM yellow. I will help you save money, reduce your print costs, but I don't want to reduce the print quality to the point where you're not pleased. So this is what we are. And I also own a 1000, beautiful machine. I had wanted to use these inks myself, and that's what I had to do. I determined I'm not going to give up the quality. If those colors were not going to be able to do it for me, I'll have to stick with the OEM, and there it is. How close did we come to the matching, you might ask? Well, here is a couple test images printed on Canon Pro Luster, and this is an extreme, how should I put it, situation where I loaded my machine from the start with the refill ink. So it's refilling in a tank, it's refilling 100% in the internal tank and in the print head. If there was going to be any color issues, it would show up right away. No color issues whatsoever. Very nice ramp, very neutral. Take a look at the black and white. Again, no profiles. All I did was loaded the inks up, told the printer to auto calibrate, which means it was to get the print settings back as if it was OEM ink, so that it could print with OEM profiles with no issues. And that's totally neutral black and white. The shadow details in here is stunning. You can't see it on the camera there, but I matched the grays so well, it was incredible. The red, extremely intense, deep. The orange, excellent there. But again, you have to use the OEM yellow, blue, and red. I'm not going to offer that or recommend it. I have the ink. It does not perform to my standard. I personally will also not use it. That's just me. So again, when you get this close color matching, what do you also get? Well, if you use third-party papers other than Canon, many third-party papers will give you their profiles for their papers. So I downloaded Red River's Ultra Pro Satin 4 profiles using Canon ink on their papers. And this is what I printed. I then proceeded to use the same paper, profile it with my ink. So if the inks were very different from the OEM, you would see it come out on the Red River image. And here we are. Take a look. These two images, side by side. Look carefully. I think most people cannot tell it apart. Look at the ramp. Again, this is Red River profile for their paper using OEM inks. This is my profile for their paper using my ink.